Hello and welcome to RIAcast. Joined with Jeff Tamarillo, one of the directors of the Southwest Florida RIA. I myself am one of the directors. My name is Mike Lyons. And today we have a special visitor to the program, Alvin Tavares. Welcome, Alvin. Welcome, Jeff.
Thank you.
And Alvin is about to give a presentation, or will in next week, about build to rent and what his company is doing. And we'd like to take a moment to go over the ins and outs of what he's doing right now that we see as being very successful in the market, and what the future of build to rent holds, and how you guys are approaching it, to kind of give a teaser really for what the presentation will be next week. So Alvin, the time is now yours. What can you tell us?
Yeah, so my background, like many of our investors meeting, is actually with rehabbing properties. And so I used to help a lot of investors, mostly out of state, identify cheap properties, help them rehab them, and either sell them or have them to someone like Mike to manage. And what ended up happening is that I kept getting requests for investors, out of state investors, who wanted to do new construction. And so I naturally would help them. And so what I found is that we quickly got to the point where about 80% of the inventory we sold was all new construction. And it was a lot less headaches for me to find these properties. We had builders doing 200 of them. So if you like one, you'll like 12. So it was much easier to sell in volume. It was much easier for people like you, Mike, as a property manager, to manage these properties. They're getting higher rents, less repair requests, and ultimately, there's less headaches. So if you think about what the ROI is on a new roof, let's say you're spending 22K on a brand new roof, the ROI on that is absolutely zero, right? You can't raise the rent because of it. You're not going to now, the property's not going to appraise for anymore. So a lot of investors are finding out that if I can hold on to these properties, for 10 to 15 years, maybe even cash out once or twice on them, I'm now expediting my cash flow, right? It's called the income snowball. I'm now accelerating my cash flow. I'm recycling my funds without having to deal with any major requests. And so it really is mailbox money, where you kind of make a smart decision, you analyze the options at that moment, but primarily you're walking away from it. You're not actively involved in the deal. And we find that that makes it a lot easier to buy multiple. If you speak to any investor, they'll tell you, hey, my goal is to, buy 20 properties in 5 years. The challenge is identifying the property. And so we make it as easy as possible for our investors to deploy their capital into a proven system.
Well, I'll mention too, on the management side, for what it's worth, that the new construction, what's nice about it is, um, you're right, there's warranties. It's all brand new. You don't need a roof 2 years into it. You don't need a lot of the bigger expenses. They're just gone. And you're demanding higher rents, and you're getting really quality tenants. So no, I wholeheartedly agree. Now, from an ownership standpoint, maybe like area wise, Jeff, I know you look at the numbers a lot. What are you seeing when it comes to um, investors that are buying these properties? Who's buying them? Who's the competition? Like, what kind of numbers are you seeing?
We have a pretty unique insight into this because my company, SteelBridge, my brokerage, we're actually the referral broker for a lot of the big investment group that basically run podcasts. So we get to kind of see the buyers, the transactions. We're not really that involved. It's kind of awesome because we do get paid. But you basically have a lot of out-of-state people that lean on someone else because they just don't want to do the due diligence or try and figure it out themselves, or they've learned that a local expert's always the way to go, somebody that's actually done this. As far as the areas, it's everywhere from Northport to Lehigh for the most part. I'm personally like Charlotte County probably the most. The homes are easier to build. If you haven't really taken the time to figure out Charlotte County, it's definitely not the Charlotte County of the last cycle. I mean, everything you want to do is up there. And I actually think, like, because I live on the water, you're a big guy on the water, Mike. I see Alvin on the boat on Facebook once in a while. The water quality is actually a little better up there in Charlotte County. So there's a lot of cool reasons to be up there, and there's a lot going on. It's not just I used to say that you would go to Charlotte County, if you really want to retire to Florida and you do nothing, Charlotte County is a great place because there's nothing to do. So, you know what I mean? And that was 10 years ago, and that is truly not the case now. It is a growing, we were just at the Sunseeker, and the steakhouse looks pretty amazing.
Yeah.
So, there's a lot of cool stuff, but it works everywhere. I mean, the Cape stuff does great. Lehigh does great. Northport's great, and it's a bedroom community of Sarasota.
Yeah.
So it's really, and I mean, intelligently, I had one guy we worked with, and we did one in Sarasota, we did one in Punta Gorda, and we did one in Cape Coral. So I'm like, you're very likely to have an eye of a storm rip off the roof off all three of your rentals.
Yeah. It could happen.
Yeah, it theoretically could in the last one, but
That's true.
but not with a newer home either. That's the side. That's the one thing nobody really talks about. We complain about the new codes and the cost, but when you look at the last storm, wow! I mean, the new homes held up well.
I manage several hundred in the area. We discussed that in this meeting a lot, but brand new construction, the properties that Alvin's talking about here that they're selling and investors are buying held up amazing against the storm that was, what they say, 500-year storm with how intense it was, and those new construction homes, you're right, the codes worked. It was great. So, well, we don't want to give away the presentation that Alvin's going to give, and also Jeff is going to share data. That'll be part of the of this. Is Jeff will have some data he's going to give in regards to who owns what is the best way I could probably describe that. But prior to closing out this short little segment, any closing thoughts there, guys, on this upcoming meeting?
Yeah, I would say a big focus is, like Jeff talking about, is the areas, and it's really identifying the areas where the land is cheap and the rent is high. So there's several maps throughout Florida where those numbers make sense. And you always want to look at those anchor cities, those cities that your city will eventually grow into. So like Port Charlotte will eventually become a Sarasota. It's just 15 or 20 years behind. We still have buildable land, but all the same attributes are exactly there, off of a highway, coastal area, good quality of life. It's exactly the same market, just a little bit further behind.
Agreed. Jeff, how about you?
As far as the report, one thing that really stuck out, and I've talked about this at the meetings a few years back, because I read Lennar's 10Ks. They're a pretty smart company as far as how they maneuver and position, and particularly how they pivot. They had set up Rialto Capital in 2008 and basically feasted on the foreclosures of the homes they built in 6, 7, and 8 even. So yeah, they're a smart company, and they mentioned they build to rent investment, and they're one of their 10Ks 2 years ago. Lo and behold, there was almost 400 of them in Lee County in that entity. So what I did is I took the non-homesteaded properties in Lee County, did an ownership count, and we're going to talk about what companies are the biggest. This is going to be a really quick, like, here's a list, and Jeff's going to talk about it for about 60 seconds. But you have, particularly when ours number one by an entity, but by a group of entities, they're definitely not number one. But the latest thing that they scare children to bed at night with is that you'll never be able to own a home because of institutionalized sellers. So I really started doing this to see how many they actually own. Do they own enough product to really swing the market? And then that's really the focus of what we're going to talk about. So look forward to sharing it. I've been working on it for a bit, and should be a great lunch anyways. Three fishermen's on the water. This may be the meeting I pull up on the boat.
All right, good. All right. Well, hey, appreciate both of your time. It'll be next week on Wednesday, the 6th. We open the doors open at 11 a.m. Really, the meeting we get food from 11 to noon, and then by 12 o'clock we start the meeting and give Alvin the time to do his presentation again. And Jeff will have a short portion there too to share when it comes to data. But hey, thank you guys both. We look forward to the meeting.
Awesome.
Thank you. Take care.
Thanks.